everyone. Welcome back. Stay tuned for our second part exclusive sit down with Karen Gravano. And if you haven't already listened to our first part of Karen Gravano, where she talks about growing up with a family in the Mafia, what it was like to be Sammy the Bull's daughter, and how everything in her life led her to mob wives and families of the Mafia, make sure to check out that part one of our exclusive sit down with her. And now stay tuned for part two. Now, bringing this into mob wives, like, how does this show come about? Like, I mean, and I know it's like Renee's sister, like, kind of came up with...
How does Mob Wives come about?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, to me, it's like...
You want the version that's been put out there, or the real version of how it came? No, there's
Let's go with the real version.
Yeah. Renee's sister was asked to cast the show by someone, and you know, she got us all together. Not to get too into the whole situation, because this is just different than really what's out there. But again, I'll just keep it real simple and short. Mob Wives came together. This guy was putting together a show, and he had asked Renee's sister to cast it. When we all came on board, it was about women who went through a struggle because their husbands went to prison or something. I wasn't even going to be on the show. Me and Jennifer were working on another project and building a production company. And when the guy had started talking to me, he was like, I need you on this show. And I was like, no, I don't want all my history dug up. Well, we wound up talking, and one word, we need you for the mob aspect of it, because really at the time when you're going to say mob wives, if you say Drita DeVanzo, Renee Graziano, Carla Fasti, like, people are going to be like, oh, okay, they're going to maybe, but pay attention to look to see what it is. But it's not going to be like Karen Gravano is on this show, Sammy the Bull's daughter. Bam, now you have a whole audience, because people are saying this show is really connected to people. So that's how I kind of, went on board and decided to join and see where we're going to go from there.
What's the story that's out there?
I mean, just, there's stories out there that, how this, basically it's pretty much that, but it's not, I don't think Jennifer ever told anyone that she was a casting agent for someone else that was pulling us together. I mean, I didn't ever really, what is it called? Tip the hat on how she really got the show. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. The show came together. We went to VH1 at first, and a lot of people don't know this. They didn't even want us, VH1, as weird as that sounds. And then Harvey Weinstein got involved in the show. Once Harvey came on board, it's the Harvey factor kicks in, and everybody wants to do a deal. So the show just, we had a bidding war over it, probably because Harvey was involved. And I think people looked at it from a business perspective of like, he's involved in the show. If we take it, we could have other opportunities with him. And the show just, came together. VH1 wound up making an offer. It came back to VH1, and the rest is history. I think, Viacom is a great umbrella for a lot of reality TV. They did a pretty good job producing it and getting it out there.
Harvey was an executive producer?
Harvey's like the owner of it. Yeah, pretty much. He was, until I guess he sold off some of his properties or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Why didn't VH1 want it? They're just like, one's going to watch this?
I think when we went in, because I think there were a couple of factors that played in, like in the beginning, maybe, I remember we did an interview, and like, it was just weird. Drita was shadow boxing in the corner, telling how she beats people up. And they were looking more of the aspect of the mob. So it kind of was like, oh, I don't know. And I don't know. Maybe they were scared of us. Maybe they didn't. And at first they were like, nah, we're going to take a pass. And then I think they realized once Harvey came on board, and, Harvey did put a big PR team behind it of his own and kind of pushed it. And outside of the network pushing, he did a whole huge push on the show, the Weinstein Company and all that. So I think they've seen that too as well, knowing that they're going to partner up with, at the time, whether people don't like Harvey or, however they feel about him. At the time, he was a beast in Hollywood. So I think, them getting in bed with him was a big plus for them now wanting the show.
Yeah. And obviously Renee must have been the first one cast.
Yeah, I think, honestly, from at the time that I remember, I think Jen said that Renee was the last one that she wanted because it was her sister. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, your family, you don't want to put your family on reality TV. I think I was the last one. Renee came in, I think, and it's kind of funny because when Jennifer had asked me, she's like, oh, it's about women whose husbands go to prison and stuff. What do you feel about Drita? I said, listen, she's a character. Like Drita, you know, I always called her the green screen gangster because lights, camera, action. She knows how to, she's good at what she does. If I don't like her or I like her, I can't take that away from her. She knows the right things to say and she makes good TV. Whether she's lying, you know, that's a whole other story in itself. But the reality is she made good TV. And so I was like her, and then Carla, they mentioned Carla, and I didn't really know, I knew of Carla, but I didn't really know her that well. We kind of started to just build a friendship, and it's so weird how me and her wound up being like super cool now. Like we're doing the podcast together, and you know, me and Ramona have always been family. But then Jen had mentioned putting Renee on, and I was like, yeah, no, she would be good. And then I was the last one because I was hesitant. I was like, no way, I can't go on a show. I'm going to get dragged through the mud. Like I have way too much history. But
yeah,
I guess that was the point at the end of the day, was using my history to get it out there.
I mean, like I could see why you wouldn't want to do it. Like this was your life, and you said, like you really gave credibility to this, like this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you knew Drita before and Renee.
Yes. Drita and I were actually the ones that were friends back in the day. Her boyfriend and my boyfriend at the time, which later became her husband, were friends. We hung out. You know, as weird as it sounds now that everything's away and a lot of people that had their hand in like the mix of everything, Drita's not, you know, she's just Drita. Like I know her, she's not a bad person. I will never be friends. There's just way too much history, but whatever. I'm past that. But there was a point in like production now that I'm working with them on the other show, it was like, you guys' scenes together were like chemistry. Like we actually had a really good chemistry with each other. So it was like, you guys, because you could tell that you really had a friendship back in the day. But I guess she had to, you know, it was weird for her to say we were really good friends, and then I wound up marrying her ex-boyfriend. So she always had to throw something in the mix that we really weren't friends. But not to get back 7 years of history. They'll be like, oh, this bitch Karen is still saying the same thing. But hey, we did have chemistry on camera. We vibed.
That's what production on Families in the Mafia said. They're like, you guys had great chem. Like they just said.
Oh yeah, the production team that the people that made Mob Wives, the producers, the people that were in the everyday making of it, like doing storylines and everything, are the people that are involved in, you know, with me. We kept a relationship, and, you know, we're working together on this project and a couple of other projects. So when we were just sitting there, you know, now it's like, we just laugh, or they'll be like, oh, remember when this happened and this happened? And they said, listen, you and Drita in the room together were like, you guys had great chemistry. You guys were funny. You could tell that you were really friends. The reality is like so much, there wasn't too many of those scenes because the reality is we weren't friends anymore. And it was just like, we couldn't even get in the same room. But the, you know, anytime that, and I think a lot of people like, you know, like the hype of a show, like season 6, I'm not going to sit with her. I'm like, yeah, bitch. Okay. All that hype. We sat at the table. You had no choice because I'm not going nowhere. Then she was going to kill me. I'm still alive. She was going to break my face. I'm still alive. So even all that hyped up, I'm going to kill her. We sat down at the table like, what's up, bitch? And then it would be like, listen, like, you know what I mean? Like the real talk would start kicking in. Like we had a definite hate for each other. I can't take that away, but there was definitely history there. So I think a lot of that came through more on the mad side, but it did come through. I mean, listen, Mob Wives was good TV. It was entertaining. There's only so much you could fight a person. There's only so much those storylines can go on. Like how many times could we just don't like each other? I mean, you can't force a shoe, you know what I mean, if it doesn't fit.
Do you think you'd be better friends with Drita today if it wasn't for Mob Wives, or no, that had nothing to do with it?
No, because it had everything to do with it. When and this is a lot of people don't know, when we pitched Mob Wives, we filmed a sizzle reel together first, and we were in the pitch meetings, And the whole storyline about Lee and the whole thing came up, and like, we were cool with it. You know what I mean? Like, she was the one, like, it's so crazy how we can be friends. And like, I didn't care. So like, nobody really gets that backstory. Like when you're watching TV, it's like, oh, bam, Karen's home and Drita's the only one that welcomes her in with open arms. No, bitch, we've been selling this show and I've been in New York for, you know what I mean? Like there was a little bit of that, not to take away from the filming, because everything that happened that's normally going to happen between people happened. You know, we had a falling out. But I think a big part of it too is like, now people who don't understand the story or who weren't there gotta, you know, they got their opinion about everything. And then people's egos, and I'm not just putting out Drita's ego, my ego, everybody's ego starts playing a part. And now it's like, oh, when I see this girl, it's like, and I think for me, like a lot of it, I never, and I mean, I'll just like this, I never put on for the cameras. If I was sad, I was sad. If something bothered me, I bothered me. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I never went in there and put on this act. So it was different. I think I felt like at times I was the more vulnerable one because I really didn't care. And it was like sometimes like, who cares? Let's get over it. And this bitch is like, yeah, right, girl, let's get over it. And then I see her in the green screen, like, I break bones. Like, weren't we just in the fucking makeup room together? You telling me like, let's go fucking have a drink after this is over? Like, yeah, not in the later, like, and everyone always says, is that show real? Do you like, no, we do not get along. And probably if we seen each other now, like, I don't know. I mean, we wouldn't get along. Like, who knows what could happen at any given moment. It's that type of
Really? Would you guys even speak to each other? Like if she would just walk right by you on the street and vice versa?
Yeah, probably. I mean, listen, I don't know. Like, it just depends the circumstances, the situations. Like, if we walked into a restaurant on Staten Island and we were both there, I'm not going to walk over to her and say hello. She's not going to walk over to me. I mean, I think if we were in some random place, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe. I don't. Like, but I still have feelings that I don't like her. So it's not going to be like, and I'm sure she probably feels the same way. That part wasn't fake. Like, we didn't like, and that when I say, you know, what was happening and then we get on camera, that's part of the reason why I got so ugly at the end. You know what I mean? It wasn't just season 6. Like, no, we couldn't even be in the same vicinity of each other. Like, it was that bad.
Yeah. And like, you just never run into her when you're in Staten Island? Like, just, you haven't seen her in years?
I have not seen or heard really anything about her. And, you know, I mean, except whatever is on social media or whatever, like things, or people like sometimes will put us together in a tweet. But I have not seen or heard anything about her since the show started.
Huh. And what about Renee?
I mean, like, since the show ended.
Since the show ended.
Yeah, Renee. I haven't been talking to Renee. Like, she's still like taking shots at me now. Like, I heard about my show and little things. There's a whole history to it, but I have nothing bad to say about Renee. You know what I mean? I think me and Renee at a certain point, like I always had her back. You know, and I was always asked to have her back. And even if I felt like, that's a thing where even if I felt that she was 1,000% wrong, I always did. But, you know, again, she's always she has her family. Like, you know, when we did this show, obviously me and her sister, you know, we don't talk anymore. So there's just a little rift between that. But I don't really have anything bad to say about Renee until she says something bad about me.
That makes sense. And do you think that's because of Mob Wives? Like, because you guys were kind of closer before the whole show, right?
Yeah, I think that, you know, no, I don't think it was because of Mob Wives. I think it was just like, we have so much history and, you know, I don't talk to her sister anymore. So I think it was more family things because of the show playing a part into a lot of things. But I don't think there was anything that happened on Mob Wives that made me and her not talk. I think it was just the aftermath. And again, like, I never had a falling out with her. We never had an argument. It just, you know what I mean? It just, things happen in life, and I wish her well. I do. You know, like, again, and sometimes you'll have people saying, oh, why is Renee taking shots at you over this? Or, you know, and then that's coming from a third party, that a fan or someone that's seeing things happen on social media and things can get distorted. A lot of that played into me and Drita. A lot of that plays when you're on reality TV. Next thing you know, you're like, it depends. You wake up in the morning and your first go on social media and someone's telling you something that someone else said, and it gets blown out of proportion. So I think all of us, honestly, could be at a peace when you're not every day on TV and feeding into all of that. That's the type of show Mob Wives was. It was a drama-driven, fight each other, argue with each other show. Everybody had an opinion. And listen, I guess everybody felt like they were part of it. Everybody took sides, teams, or whatever it may have been. And a lot of things spiraled for us personally, whether it was in a good way or a bad way, off of that. Now that we're all detached from it, it's like we all have our separate things that we're doing. And I couldn't really sit back and say, like, I wish anyone bad. I really don't. Whatever happens, and people can, move on and do their thing.
Drita too? You wish her well?
I just wish, yeah, I don't care. Like, even when I heard that she got in trouble and she got arrested and stuff, me being in those situations before in my life, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. And if I'm calling her my worst enemy, I don't wish that on her. She, you know what I mean? She has 2 kids. She's a single mom. So yeah, I wish that, she can do good. I don't want to see any, that's just me. You know what I mean? Being me. Now, if we both got in the same room and shit happens and we had an argument or a fist fight, that doesn't mean I'm still going to leave and wish her bad. I just don't care. You know what I mean?
Right. That makes sense. And then, so you were obviously there for the right reasons later, like if you were upset, because I mean, you're genuine. I mean, and you also lived it. Like, were other people there for the wrong reasons? Like Drita, Renee, were they like, oh my God, listen, people get blinded by the cameras, blinded by fame. Like, was there that going on?
Well, I even think including myself, at the end of the day, we were all there for money. We all wanted to take care of our families.
Totally.
And listen, I would be a liar if I sat here and said my ego didn't feed into it. You know what I mean? Like, you start getting caught up in it, and it's like, oh, Team Karen, or like someone tells you something. You're like, yeah, it just, everybody, I think, and that can go for any kind of reality TV show. Some people, you just start feeding into it. And I think everybody there, though, when this show started, was to take care of our families. I think we were all there for the right reasons.
And how come you don't speak to Jen Graziano anymore?
We just had there's a lot of things. It was just, we were misled, all of us. And I'm not the only mob wife that says that. Sometimes you take someone and you look at them as a friend, and their word is everything, especially when you grow up in a certain kind of lifestyle. And you realize that, once they get with the corporate people or whatever it is, they'll sell their friendships out for anything. I went on and was doing this show and built my own relationships that had nothing to do with her. And she's, not wished me well. So at the end of the day, it's like, no hard feelings. You do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. I don't know why. You know what I mean? Everybody has, especially me, have been dragged through the mud and has sacrificed. It's like I was the one to say, get on my back and jump through the window. And once you got up in the window with all those people, Jen and I had a production company in 2008. Nothing ever came out of it. She's supposed to use me as leverage to get this deal and get Mob Wives done or whatever. And then it's like, once you got there, nothing else happened. And she'll say, oh, because we didn't have nothing, but that's not true. You know what I mean? That's not true at all. So whatever happened, we moved past it. Let's fast forward to now. I have a show, and it's, I've never been once told I'm happy for you, I'm proud of you. It is what it is. So
do you think there's jealousy like from her and Renee?
I think jealousy. Yeah, I do. I think, you know what I mean? But I don't know what for. Everybody has their own lane. Jennifer's a producer. Jennifer has a huge franchise, Mob Wives, that was, built with Harvey Weinstein. She was able to be put in a situation that benefited her. So you're a producer now. Go on and make other stuff. Why are you so interested in what I'm doing or trying to hold me back? You don't own the mob. You don't, you know what I mean? Like my story is my story. I can tell however I want to tell it. It's my history. It's me. I did books. My father did a book in 1997. I did a book, you know what I mean? I had a movie deal that I actually walked away from in 2009. You know what I mean? I have so much history into this. So for me to do something off of who I am and want to build off of it is just me. When she does her shit, I'm not like, okay, why did you do 7 spin-offs off of Mob Wives when, your friends are the ones that helped you get the show and you didn't cut nobody in on it? did I hate on her? Did I ever stop doing what I had to do? No. But at the end of the day, you did everything. You built a franchise. You built spinoffs. You made money. And there's other things, you know what I mean? Like you were taking money out of all your friends' paychecks while you're an executive producer. It was just a lot of things. And again, I stood by her. I never put this out. There's multiple interviews with Drita saying that, you know, other people have said it. Ramona have said it. There's people, other mob wives, and I've always had your back. So the second that I'm able to pivot right and do something on my own, it's like, I don't get, you know, where's the loyalty, John Gotti? You know what I mean? Like,
seriously,
where's the loyalty? Where's the respect? But again, it is what it is. You know, you got to understand that that's just, and is life. And, you know, there's always that thing, Jen gave us this platform. No, we gave Jen the platform. Don't ever underestimate that. We all came together. And as much as I don't like Drita or like people, we came together and we did a show. Show was called Mob Wives. It was Sammy the Bull's daughter comes back. You know what I mean? That was a platform that you were able to get involved in and got in the right position with the right people. And more power to you. You did it.
And if you didn't know her, who knows? You may not have done the show if some random stranger came along and knocked on the
definitely I
door.
wouldn't have done the show. You know what I mean? But there was, she did, I'm not going to take away, like, you know, her partner, Marvin, who was part of this, had to deal with the Weinsteins and brought Harvey in. Yeah, that was definitely linked up through her. Because like I said, once Harvey came in the picture, everybody wanted to work with us. So yeah, she brought that to the table, but she didn't bring the concept and she didn't bring, you know what I mean? That was a joint collective issue. We were the ones that were going to work, and she was the one that was supposed to position up and then pull her friends up. And then she says that all of us turned against her, but everybody can't be saying the same thing, especially people that don't get along.
Right. That's true. And like, was there any opposition amongst the boys in the mob? Like, you can't go and have this show go forward. Like, was there this fear factor?
Probably, you know what I mean? I think that people probably said that. And I think, you know, even especially with me, it's like, oh shit, she's coming back. I don't know. It's like, it wasn't about the men. You know what I mean? It really wasn't when you really sat down and looked at it. The same way, like, even this show, Families of the Mafia, this is about families. This is about struggles with kids and trying to raise your kids. Like, when you really sit down and watch it, this is about how to make your kids be better than what you are. Mob Wives was about a bunch of women who didn't get along and we fought and argued with each other. That's really, when you boil down and sit down and watch it, it's like, you know, they're two different shows, two different things. They, you know, the mob aspect, because of me, because that's just who I am. I did a show on Reels called I Live with the Murderer. That's, you know, about my father growing up in that lifestyle. That's just always going to be my path and my history. I can never change that. But you watch TV and you got to take away with what the show is really about. So I think when the men really seen it, it was like we weren't telling people stories. I mean, the most thing I got was like, oh my God, like, you guys can't get along. This is getting annoying, or, you know, shit like that. It wasn't about the mob.
So there wasn't, like, before it started, like, you know, people saying like, hush, like, do not speak.
Yeah, there probably was. Yeah, there was definitely some of that. But what were we going to speak about? If we're not there, we can't tell the men's story. We're not them.
Did your father watch the show?
Mob Wives? No. Yeah. He watched season 1 and he was like, listen, I'm trying, no. And then it went on to be like, you guys are fighting and arguing. And it's just, I think a lot of men, especially involved in that, was like, you guys were annoying after a while. It became a reality TV show, like all those housewife franchises, right? Every housewife franchise, whether it's Mob Wives, Basketball Wives, you know, even you can go to Bravo. What is it? All those franchises, the housewives, they're about women interacting with each other and whether they get along, they don't get along, what it is. I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. I mean, like, well, right before this was like when the Housewives had a New Jersey version and then Teresa flipped the table. This to me, like, came right after, like, if I remember, like, this came like right after that. And exactly. It was kind of like Jersey had that feeling maybe of undertones of the mob. And then you're like, oh shit, this is the real fucking deal over here on VH1. Yeah. I think that was kind of the appeal. I mean, to me, I don't know. I remember when it came out and like just watching it, I was like, I just kept saying, I can't believe I don't know how this show was made. You know what I mean? Like for people that like.
No, a lot of people say that, like, how did you guys do that? You know, we just did it. We just, you know what I mean? That was one thing we did have a pact of, and we just went and did it.
And that's when it gets into like the average person across America doesn't understand the mob. And you're just like, no, this is the real deal, people. Like it's a show, but this
some
is
of
like
us were definitely the real deal.
Right.
Some of us weren't, but well, not just me, like, you know, even Renee's father, he was involved. I mean, I don't think he was a big name. He did have positions at certain points, but I don't think he was the draw for the television show. Ramona's grandfather, they had the whole Donnie Brasco. Those are real stories. I mean, they still make documentaries about my father, her father. There are other people that, you know, came on board, like even Victoria Gotti that solidified it at the end. But again, yes, people were like, okay, they have this real thing. And then it's like, they really don't like each other. I think that's one thing that I always did get was like, a lot of shows would be like, no, you could tell that you guys really didn't like each other. So it wasn't like we were a group of people that were just put together. Let's take the whole mob aspect out of it. We still had history, right? We still knew each other. So a lot of reality shows are like they put these people together and they don't know each other. So you're really fighting over, oh, she said my hair is, you know, she don't, whatever. It could be something as simple as that. Like, but when you're getting to mob wise, we're fighting about shit that happened 10 years ago.
And I've never seen a show where, you know, actual security needs to come in as much as it did.
Yeah, there was definitely.
I mean, those were all real physical fights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
So that just like, it was just, listen, it was amazing TV, but like, I just think for the average person, it's probably like, holy shit, like what the hell?
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I think it was cool. So then the show ended, and then, you know, that show had the theme of like, we're the women, we want better, we don't want this lifestyle, we don't want our children. And then we fast forward to like 2000 when like you and your brother came into some legal troubles.
Mm-hmm.
And so then were you like, oh shit, like this is coming back out of nowhere? I mean, you know, it was something new that happened, but that, you know, like
when I got arrested here in Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah. That was way before Mob Wives or any even thinking of. It was right after my father did his book. I think it was like 98 or whatever. And then 2000, yes, we got in trouble. That was definitely a major mistake and a life lesson. But it was kind of big situation that happened. So it affected a lot. My brother went to prison for 10 years. My father actually went to prison for 18 years. My daughter's father went to prison for 9.5 years. My brother 9.5 too. But it's like that's just kind of like the whole stigma of trying to hold on to something that's not really there. And I think when that happened with the whole ecstasy thing in Arizona, I was still trying to hold on to a past that really wasn't even my past or just wasn't there anymore. So I made poor decisions, got involved with the wrong people, and did wrong things. There's no really getting around it. And just, I fucked up and put myself in a position to where, you know, my father later got involved to protect me and my brother. And the reality is we had to pay the price. And at that point in my life was, I think, a very pivotal moment to where I said, okay, I could still be mad and angry, or I could still, and I think I was mad and angry after my father cooperated because my whole life had changed at that point and I didn't understand it, or, you know, and then I was making poor decisions. So it's like I could either still be this person and keep going down this path to feeling sorry or being mad or trying to wish I had a lifestyle that I had as a kid growing up. And the reality is that's never going to happen. So how now do I have a child? I have a nephew, you know, my brother's in prison, my father's in prison. How do I become a role model or try to fix it? And I knew, obviously, with my father, this was always going to be a story that was going to be out there. So it's like, how do I embrace it? And from a very young age, like my daughter and my nephew, we were very honest and open with them. This is what it is. Can't hide that. So, you know, I think me teaching my daughter, like, and I think sometimes, especially on Families of the Mafia, because that's what this show is about, is to learn off those mistakes. And it's more, those are things that I could relate to because now I made my own mistakes, right? So it's kind of like this pattern that you go through. Like my father was this person and, you know, he lived his certain kind of lifestyle, even though he wanted better for me. I was attached to that lifestyle. So I kind of made those decisions that I made and created my own things that I've done wrong on my own path. And now I have a daughter, and I kind of like want to break the cycle and say, where is it that, you know, I could be a better person and teach my daughter, not only just her. Again, like I said, there's so many kids out there that could watch this show, and it's everyday parenting situations. So when you get past the Mafia word or that, it's bringing you into, this is my household now. Like even my relationship with my daughter's relationship with her boyfriend. She's, you know, at the time when we filmed, it's from 18 to 20. It's young love, it's insecurities, it's all this stuff. And okay, as a mother, you're like, you want her to get on TV and everything be perfect. But I think so many kids go through what she's going through. And not to say that her boyfriend's a bad person. I just think, you know, what works in relationships, right? You got to have friendship and trust. And at 18 years old, do you know that? Like, do you even know how to be a friend to someone? Right. You're dealing with all this craziness. And I think in certain situations, it could become worse, or women can go into a pattern to where they're choosing men, or they get into abusive situations, or you can learn from it. And maybe even the man can learn from it and say, like, listen, that's not how you want to act. It's immature. You want to change. So that's where I took from my past lessons, things that I wanted to do that actually created me to even want to make the show.
Is that how like the concept for the show came about? Like when did you come up with this idea? Like I know it started as like Made in Staten Island and then was rebranded.
Well, yes. Made in Staten Island was a show about kids growing up in today's society. And a lot of kids, right, at a young age, fuck up their lives. So it's like, how do you stop these kids from doing this? Well, all these kids kind of had a storyline. And as we started filming, we realized that the storyline was way deeper. And the dynamic between them and their families kind of made more sense to kind of put the whole show as an overall, like, let's involve the parents because they're the ones that are teaching you. So we kind of pulled the show and we just decided to like rebrand it and redo the whole show because the dynamics between the kids and their family, and a common thread on Made and Families of the Mafia is, I don't know if you could see, but like the love that all these people have for their kids is like, I admire every one of them in their own way. So that's really what this show is. It's about kids growing up in this generation that need to, you know, navigate and learn how to be adults.
And a lot of them have made mistakes. Yeah, and a lot of them have made mistakes, and now we're seeing them kind of. Did you know the other families, like the O2 family, the LaRocca family? Did you know all them?
Yeah, we met through the kids. So, well, like Denny, her mom, we kind of grew up together. I knew her when we were younger. It was like the whole thing. We kind of had this fight and whatever, and we just hung out. And Karina's like, you're so immature when you say friend groups, but Karina says it all the time. But we were in different friend groups when we were kids, and we just kind of grew up around the same people. And then later in life, we started hanging out again. And then the LaRocca's, like Gina, I met right before we started filming. She's amazing. I just love her. She's so like raw, real. It's just like blunt to your face. This is what it is. She doesn't care what people think, and like. It's never like it's just who she is. And I love that about her. Yeah. Like, honestly, she's a very real individual. And then Trish and Anthony, because Karina and CP were friends. So I had met Trish, you know, basically the same thing right around through the kids. And the same thing with, you know, Jess and Billy. Actually, me and Billy were good friends through the filming of all this. So.
Was this the same as Mob Wives? Like, did you have to shop this around, or was MTV like, welcome home, we want you?
They were like, welcome home. It was the concept. Adam Gonzalez, who is the creator, his concept when he started seeing like everything. We started filming like Made in Staten Island. His thing was like, oh my God, this is a show about young individuals trying to navigate through today's society, not given all, like a lot of the shows that you watch, which everyone loves because you can escape from reality, right? So you can see like Kylie floating in her pool in her $35 million home and everything's beautiful and glamorous. But reality is life isn't like that for everyone else. Right. I love the Kardashians. You know what I mean? It could be an escape from anything. They're trendsetters. They're fashion icons. You know what I mean? The things that they do kind of, I always say the Kardashians rule the world, you know? But
kind of.
Yes. But the reality is not everybody has access or can ever become a Kardashian any day in their lives. So how do we create something, especially for the younger generation, to say, this is who we can relate to. These are the things that I've had. I didn't have, like, I think there's a scene in there, which is one of my favorite lines, where Joe says, everything isn't always so peachy and green. You know, this is real life. We got real life problems, real life struggles. So how do people relate on any level? And I think, like, I'm probably the biggest fan of my own show, right?
It's a great show.
Just because I know the dynamics of it. You know, when I watch someone like Denny, who, you know, Denny's so funny. She's so full of life. And, like, there's never a time where she's not on. Like, Denny's forever on. She'll make you laugh or whatever. But when you're with someone like that all the time, you're like, well, wait, what is it? Is she putting up a wall for something? So the more I got to know her, I realized she didn't have a relationship, you know, with her dad. And there's so many people out there that don't have a relationship with their dad, you know, or don't know them. And when her walls started to come down, it's like actually something that, you know, hurt her in her process. It didn't really stunt her from being fabulous, like she says, but the reality is like, can it later in life in relationships with guys? Is this something she should address now, you know?
It's really, like I told you, like I was going to watch it anyway, but it's so good. I think it's so well cast too. Like I think each, you know what I mean? Like there's no, like, let's recast this family's not great. I think it's great.
Yeah, everybody's great in their own. And, you know, when the general public watches the show, they're like, what's their mob connection? Like, dude, look beyond the fucking, you know what I mean? Get past the cover. Like, that's all I'm asking is when people watch a show, get past the cover and really see what this is when it starts to unfold into everything. And again, even with my daughter, yes, we are the Mafia connection. You can never take that away. Like, that's just like, I'm sorry, you'll have to go back and erase, you know, 30 years of history. Yeah. But Karina's story is actually very unique to me because I think I have so many people that are raising kids going, oh, my daughter's boyfriend drives me nuts, or they're fighting, or they're this or they're that. And when I was going through that, because everybody did, I didn't have the relationship with my mom that me and Karina have. So I'm trying to step in as an adult and be calm, cool, and collective and give both sides, because Paulie honestly is a good kid. Like, he's lost his father. He's been through different things. He has insecurities for many different reasons. But the reality is, like, as a mom, how do you step in and help them both? Like, I don't want to bash him or, you know what I mean, hurt him, but I'm going to protect my daughter at any means necessary. So it's like, you know, sometimes you got to just use things as an example to teach other people.
Did Karina really want to do the show, or she didn't, like, you know?
Karina is my biggest critic. So it's like, and it's so funny because Karina is so not mob, right? So I grew up attached to that lifestyle, and I don't like to use the word mob princess, but I guess if anyone was a mob princess back in the day, it could have been me. I was, you know, kind of mob royalty and grew up around a certain kind of lifestyle. But Karina didn't. So, like, she's just like, you can tell, like, sometimes, and I'll always laugh because my father will go back and tell these stories, and they're so intriguing. And, like, and Karina's like, I can picture, like, in her mind, she's thinking about her hair, like, you know, like, she's so disconnected from it. So when she had come back to New York, it's there. You know what I mean? It's very prominent, especially on Staten Island. And it's like, oh, your grandfather this. So it's like she had to learn about it. But then when we were doing the show, she's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about the mob, and I don't care about this. But I'm like, Karina, it's still your history, and you have to, because it's always going to be there. And now she gets it. Living in Arizona, it's like, I don't even know if people, like, talk about it. But, like, in New York, they do. So now it's like... And yes, Karina would much rather be doing a show about fashion and runway and talking about, you know, Balenciaga sneakers and, you know, all that stuff. She should be Ramona's daughter. She's very bougie. But I think also, and this is something kind of crazy, because when we were filming, at first I'm like, what's she gonna, like, I'm in my head, you know, I'm thinking, like, what's she gonna be like, or, you know, certain situations. And honestly, I have to say, I'm literally watching the show, and I'm like, damn, like, she's very level-headed and, like, mature. And it's like, I don't, like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I am being so annoying. And I'm like, you don't want to be in the streets. And she's like, no shit.
Right. She's like, I'm not in the streets anyway. Like,
yeah, I'm not. Like, why are you even telling me this? So I'm starting to be like, all right, I guess my point was made. I don't have to tell her anymore.
Did you feel like, because you had been through like reality TV before, did you feel like, you know, like Mama Bear, like this is what you do and this is how you handle the camera, and or was it just like, let's just shoot this?
You know, I filmed with her a lot on Mob Wives, and we laugh about it now because I think I was so protective. Like, I would ask her a question and then answer for her. And Adam would be like, could you please let her answer? You know, I think that's where my protective. But on this show, it's like she has her own, Karina's very opinionated. And, you know, I think when Mob Wives, she was so young, so I'm like protective and I'm still, but here it's like she'll back me right up. Like, she'll be like, wait, I'm speaking, you know, and I'm like, okay. So obviously you always want to protect your child, but I think that she's definitely a very strong, opinionated girl, and I kind of admire her opinions on a lot of things.
Does she prefer Staten Island or Arizona?
Oh, I couldn't get her to come back here if I don't know, maybe if I like I gave her like the Hope of Diamond, right? The diamond, whatever. No, she likes New York. She's like so New York now.
Aren't we all?
Yes.
Is she still doing like the modeling, and like what is she up to now?
Yes, she's still doing modeling. Yes, she is.
And that's like a lot of her day.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, what about your father? Because like I know we saw him say this on Families of the Mafia, and I think you've even said it, like, you know, the whole concept of like, I would do anything to protect my family.
Well, I mean, I think that I would say this, and when I said it on the show, I will say it 1,000 times over. My father still is who he is. I'll never take that away from him. And he is very protective of his family and the people that he loves. So the reality is, again, my first protection is for my daughter. Like I said to him, and I would say this to anyone, whether my daughter is wrong, right, or whatever, I got her back first. She's wrong, I'm going to pull her aside and tell her she's wrong, which I do. You know what I mean? You got to learn how to take that in. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that's how any kind of relationship can become vital. Whether it's, you know, I don't ever want to wake up, and I've never had this, so but do you love someone to where you feel like you're losing control, and that happens? That's like, you know, I'm not saying, but it's a track record of people that have had these experiences before. So how do I step in as a parent before it escalates? And I do know what I am capable of if someone hurts my daughter, you know, vice versa. And again, I say that to say it, like, and again, listen, I just went through a relationship a couple of years back that, like, when people love you, they want to hold you down and they don't want you to grow because they're scared they're going to lose you. But true, sincere love are the people that want to love you to help you grow. Totally. And it would be me. And I'm saying this and that's why this show is important to me, because people can take this away. When you're young, I don't think you know how to do that. These kids all need some sort of guidance, right? So I'm not just going to go into attack mode. And like, if my daughter came back with a black eye, yeah, I'm going into attack mode. And there were a lot of times where there has been attack mode.
That makes sense. Like, if only we knew then what we know now, which you don't. Right. You just got to kind of go through it.
And, you know, talking to my father, and I think that he's such a strong, influential person and has been through so many experiences. Maybe he can give her the right advice, but he's also as dangerous as it comes. So it's like, you know what I mean? And yes. I say that to say in a very, but it's like when anybody is attacked and you're put in a position, then that is there. You know what I mean? And if it's somebody that has the ability to do that quicker than someone else, then I just think that that's a situation that you don't want to put yourself into.
I wouldn't want to put myself into that situation. No.
Yeah.
I mean, now, despite the fact that your father's house looks huge, and like, I don't know if that's how it's filmed, but it looks like a freaking mansion.
Uh-huh.
What is your father's, I mean, that's neither here nor there. It's just, I have house envy for a minute. What does your father say about like being on this show? Or it just doesn't even go there? He doesn't watch it. He's like, yeah, whatever.
No, he watches it and he's like so proud of me. He's like, you're an executive producer, proud. But he also, when he came out of prison, he wasn't like, oh, I want to be a reality star. You know, that's what I want to do. I was already in the process of working on this show and it was in development or whatever. So when it kind of went to where we decided the dynamics between the family, it just, family goes so deep, you know, roots go so deep. And it was important for me to kind of be able to show that. And I think, you know, him being who he is would have, you know, because it plays such a big thing in my life that needed to be told. So I had asked him at first, I'm like, well, if we come visit you and I bring cameras, and he's like, no, I'm going to come, you know, no cameras or whatever. And I was like, this means a lot to me. And he's so supportive of anything that I do that he's supporting me. And I thank him, you know, I've thanked him multiple times for it. I appreciate it. He's working on his own projects that are just way different than this, you know, way different than anything that was, you know, anything in the prior, whether it was Mob Wives or this, like he's working on the real shit, right? So this is the real shit as far as the reality version of what the families go through. But he's working on his stuff. And I can't wait for I think it's going to be a huge podcast. There's pretty big people that are involved in it. And I am anxious for that to come out. So for him to kind of take his time out of what he got going on and like maybe his first splash back into the world was on my show. Like I respect him for that. And that's what, and like, that's what family does, right? At the end of the day, you have each other's back for whatever it is. And this meant something, it meant a lot to me. So he had my back when I asked him to. So I respect and love him for that.
Is he like, wait a second, Karen, I don't look so great in that scene. Do that over. Like, what the hell? Or is it just...
You know, it's so crazy. It's like, I didn't know how he was going to be. Like, he's just such a natural. Like, it's like, he's very animated. And I think because like when I watch him and I'm watching him work on his projects, he's just real. It's like, just what you see is what you get. That's how he is in real life and whatever. So he didn't really even think of that. Like, he just got so into like the conversation and, you know, just being there and supporting me and my daughter was like what was really important. No, he wasn't really concerned about the way he looked. I mean, he was very vain, though. I won't take that away from him.
I mean, he was great in his scenes.
And, you know, I think all of us are still kind of like shooken up a little bit from the way it did end. You know what I mean? In a lot of different ways. And I think this whole kind of pandemic, like so many people had so many things going on that now just it's like we're back to ground zero. So like, how do we incorporate all of this? Like,
I think you need to come back to New York when this is all
you're
over.
Like, get over here now. We need drinks.
I was just going to say, we have to go out for a drink. We'll do Staten Island, New Jersey, or New York. Yes. I don't care. And then before we wrap up, talk to us about your podcast. It's you, Carla, and Ramona.
Yes. Me, Carla, and Ramona. You know, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Me and Carla went to war on Mob Wives. And then through everything, we kind of built this relationship. And even when me and Carla went to war, I think you can go back and pull up the footage when I said, one thing I have to respect about Carla is her loyalty. Even if she's loyal to someone I don't like, I didn't use those words. I probably said even if she's loyal to a hoe. But even if she's loyal to someone I don't like, it is what it is. And we just built a relationship. Ramona is funny as shit. I don't know if you guys know that about her. She gets on my last nerve because she just doesn't stop talking. Maybe I've heard her for the last 47 years of my life. So I think that she just brings something really unique to the table. And Carla and like are polar opposites. So it kind of vibes. We put together the sit down because we just thought it would be like who we really are. You know, so much of Mob Wives was fighting and arguing. And like since the show, like we just live life, you know what I mean? And it's like, this is it. And it's funny because we're still the same people. So we have like this quirky kind of take on different things. And I think it'd just kind of be something interesting. It's about women empowering women. Today's topics, like we talk about beauty and food and being a mom, and each one of us are single moms. We each have like unique relationships with our kids. Like me and Karina will go to a nightclub together. And like Ramona would never, like she was, you know? So it's just like we're just very opinionated, strong women that have been through a whole bunch of shit. And it's like we have this certain unique take on things and we're just going to bring it all together in a podcast.
That's amazing.
Yes. Because you've been doing this for a minute. And, you know, I respect everything you do. Listen, I watch you too. I see everything that you do. And you always stay true to who you are. Like, that's one thing I always liked about you. I remember we met a while back and you had told me like your vision, and this is like what you followed through with it. And I always respect that. So
I'm making it happen. And listen, I have my haters too. And I'm just like, listen, this is me. Like love me or hate me, I'm living my authentic truth and I'm doing what I want to do. And if you're not on board, all right, stay home and criticize. I don't really care.
Yeah. It's always the ones that are talking that are really like your biggest fans. True. Listen, I've had haters for the last 20 something years, and look where I am. And I'm not going to try to toot my own horn, but like Mob Wives was like just a minor thing, right? Where everyone else is still stuck there. But I had things before Mob Wives. I've had a book. I now have, 2 television shows that came out already. And now I'm like doing a podcast and possibly another book. Who knows? So.
And what's the name of your book again, just in case people want to find it?
My book is called Mob Daughter.
That's right.
That's one thing. It's funny because everyone's like, well, you're enough with it. It's just, it's a brand. That's what people don't realize when you build a brand. Like if I went and did, whatever, like Skin Girl, like you're going to be like, what? Who? It's Karen. So you keep to your brands, and like anything you do, it's like, get behind the velvet rope, right? You want to know what's behind it. Like, come on, put more into it. We didn't just sit here and talk about celebrities or things like that. This is like very deep conversations. And that's what any project that anyone does. You build your brand and you go hard with it. And I'm going to stick to mine till the end. And once people, learn to like me or hate me for whatever, then they could be true to that. And one thing I have noticed is that I have which I appreciate, I have a very big fan base that have stayed true to me through it all. And I appreciate that. I might not have the most out of everyone, but I have very loyal people that really support me in the things that I do.
I could see that. Well, you're like a real person,
Thank
at
you.
least my experience is, you're authentic. That's my biggest thing. I'm just like, love me or hate me, I'm authentically myself. So here it is.
Right.
Is there anything you want to, so everyone needs to watch Families of Mafia. Everyone needs to go back and watch the whole season, which, it's on demand. It's a great fucking show. It really is. I'm not just saying that.
No, I appreciate it. And that's the thing you had mentioned earlier. And I think a lot of people right now are like, with this whole pandemic and being home, are binge watching series, right? So even for me, like when I've watched the things that I've watched through this, I sat there and don't want to get up for 4 hours. And I think people that have told me they binge watched it is where they really become attached to the project, because you see it, like everything happening right after each other.
And go back and watch it, everyone. Is there anything you want to leave us with? And I really, really appreciate you just took a lot of time. I really appreciate it. You didn't have to do it.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And listen, again, we support each other. That's what people do, right?
I love you. You're like having nothing to do with you being on TV or anything. I love you.
No, I love you back. And I just want people to know, listen, at the end of the day, and this is just something, a sidebar, like this whole pandemic too, and everything that we went through, like just take the good out of it. And that could just be like, spend more time with family, just be more healthier, like life just kind of stopped everyone in their tracks right now. And I think even for me, like taking myself out of focusing on drama or this or that, like just focus on the positive things in your life and just try to stay healthy and positive and keep pushing forward. We'll get through this together.
I think so too. And where can we all find you online?
Oh, it's I'm Instagram girl. Like I do Twitter here and there, and I don't know anything about TikTok, and I don't do Facebook. So Instagram, Karen Gravano.
I don't even
everything about me.
I don't understand Twitter. Like I just I can't. It's so confusing to me.
I know. I just start retweeting things and stuff. I do go there. But yeah, and a lot of people like Carla is really big on Facebook, but I have Facebooks out there and they're not me. So people are like, what are you talking about? I was having this whole conversation. I'm like, that's not me. I don't know who it is, but like my real friends, like my family friends, like follow that page and communicate with them. That's not me. I have to get one. I'll just put the real KG, but yeah, I do Instagram.
And you're good. I mean, I see you like respond to people on Instagram a lot.
Yes. So
it's at Karen Gravano, and that's on Instagram. And you and I will keep in touch. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you.
Okay. Oh my God, you're amazing.
You see my black eye? I just put that I have a black eye because I was playing baby shark with my niece. And she was a dolphin, I was the shark, and it just didn't work out too well for me. She got away.
Because if you have a black eye, I mean, here we go. It's going to be a whole story now. So let's just put that it's a baby shark. We'll leave this in there. But thank you so much. I'll text you.
I love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Bye. Thanks for listening to yet another episode of Behind the Velvet Rope. Because without you listeners, I would just be a crazy person with voices in my head. And if you like what you hear, subscribe on Apple Podcasts under Behind the Velvet Rope. And when you're done subscribing, feel free to leave a 5-star write-up review because the write-up reviews actually count. We read each and every one of them. We post the best ones, and the reviews really help our shows keep going. And we really appreciate everything you guys say, especially the positive ones. And if you want to find us online, we're at Behind Velvet Rope on Instagram. We are at David Yontef on Instagram. We're Behind the Velvet Rope on Apple Podcasts. Or head on over to Patreon because you know what? There are just some things we can't talk about here. So for our bonus episodes, go to Patreon and type in Behind the Velvet Rope. And if you still aren't sick of me and you want more David, go to Cameo and book me on Cameo. And you can ask me anything there. I'll answer whatever you want. And I have a bargain basement price of $10. Thank you guys. See you soon.